Hello. So I was asked if I would do a review of Michael Jackson's chart because his movie is out, and of course, someone was interested in some of the astronumerology components of his chart. So I'm going to do that. And we're going to base this information on what I found online regarding his time of birth. So, Michael Joseph Jackson, he was born August 29th, 1958, and then his transition time was at 7:33 or 19:33 p.m. And I'm not going to get into it, but for those of you who are learning astronumerology, I want you to be aware of the 19, the karmic number, and the 33, the master number. Okay, just make a mental note of that. And the 33 is really important considering the fact that he was had heavily involved in communication through arts, which the threes are the artistic energies. Okay. And then he was born in Gary, Indiana. His date of death was June 25th, 2009. 2009 was an 11-2 year, that illuminator, and nine is an ending. So just keep that in mind. And then the other piece of this is his time of death was 226, which is 1426, which is that 14-5 karmic energy plus the 26 is the 8 energy. So for those of you who are actually learning with me, this will be important. We'll get into that in your other discussions. Okay, his cause of death was cardiac arrest or overdose, and we'll see how that plays into some of the elements in his chart later. So here it is, Michael Jackson, date of birth, August 29th. This is what his Vedic astrology looks like. Um, just some key points. If we look here, this is his ascending right here. And then, so that's the first house. Vedic astrology, of course, the houses go reverse in the numbers. And so the moon, right? The moon is in his first house at his time of birth. Okay, that's going to be important later. And in general, in his chart, most of his houses are in, most of the signs are in a good placement, right? For the majority of it, right? Not everyone, Scorpio and Cancer. So, well, for those of you who are learning with me, we're going to get into that later on. All right, so let's look at by the numbers what his core numbers indicate. His life path was a six, and the six energy is a nurturer, someone who brings unity, someone who uplifts others just by their presence. And as we saw, there were people who will fall out just from being around him. His attitude is a one, a leader, someone who wants to the spotlight to be on them, to shine on them, who wants to be the king of such and such, which he was, the king of pop. And then his birthday is an 11-2. And 11-2 is a master number, but it is serving as an inspiration for others, a role model to others. And sometimes it's just by your presence. It's not necessarily a person who has to give you dogma. It's just by the way that he lived his life. Other people wanted to be like him, wanted to imitate him. We have the Chris Brown, the Usher, all those people that came behind him. The 11-2 birthday means that he was a very sensitive individual and he had great intuition. And if you ever looked at some of the interviews from him directly, he said that his intuition, his dreams, was how he was able to come up with some of the things that he did in his performances, in his writings, his music, his discography. It was through his dreams. And when he stopped dreaming, that was when he started turning into different drugs and things to help him sleep. Though that's from an interview that he did directly. His personality number is two. Now, the two is a balanced number, and two comes across when people meet him, it comes across as a number that he wants to get along with other people. He wants to, make things smooth for other people and work with other people. That's how people see him. His heart's desire was since he had a love for family, a desire to make the world a better place. That was his goal, right? That's just truly what he wanted. Karmic debts and lessons, zero. He did not have any debts, and therefore he will not reincarnate. He came here, he completed his mission. He owed this world nothing. Okay. The mode number is one, again, a leader, and he came here, was a leader and showed up, and also the sun shining on him. His whole life was, he was in the spotlight, and that definitely was true for him. All right, so let's look at his astrology numbers. Okay, his astrology energy, starting with his rising house. His rising house, that's the first house. The moon is in Aquarius, and this is the energy that he carried throughout his life. The moon represents revealing something, showing something, and he did that, right? He ended up with the moon walk, which became a signature of his. He ended up with that lean, that was a signature of his. He was an innovator in his dance style. Even though he mimicked people like James Brown, he changed the game and revealed a new energy to the world in his stylings, right? And this is important, that carried him through his career. His third house, K2 and Mars are in Aries. Movement is the key, and it is like his secret weapon, right? And again, we saw that with his moving of his body, and he communicated through his movements. He gave pleasure to people. His career was all about that, right? His sixth house, Venus and Cancer. Now, here's a problem because he's associated with competition. And of course, there's people that they've pitted against him in the industry, but he had enemies at home. He had competition within his own home, competing for the spotlight. And I haven't seen the Michael Jackson movies, but from what I understand, that's one thing that some people walked away thinking, right? He had legal issues related to his home, in pleasure, and untimely death. Venus is being pleasurable things, and of course, he had, the situations with the children in his home. He had animals in his home. He had a lot of different things that he had some challenges with, right? Um, in debt. And from what I saw, he died in debt. And I'm sure if I do a little bit more digging, I would see that that debt was because of some people who were close to him in his home. Okay. Seventh house is the sun and Mercury in Leo, and partnerships related to his father and sibling. That's definitely tied to how he got his start in music. Seventh house was part of that. But throughout his life, that energy followed him. Those relationships influenced everything that he did. His ninth house, which is normally that expansive house, Jupiter is there, which it is Jupiter's natal ruler. And then Rahu is there in Libra, right? In Libra, meaning balance energy, judicial energy, and him having luck. So you saw he had luck with his foreign travels. He had luck with judicial matters. He won cases. It's also an energy of being original, inventive, and inspirational, and unpredictable. And he does things that makes him feel like an outcast to others and untouchable, and also he felt like an outcast. And I'm thinking now because I lived through the Michael Jackson incident of him holding the baby out of the window, totally unpredictable, totally off the script. Him seeing things like it's okay to share a bed with a child, totally unpredictable, total people like, wait a minute, where did that come from? So definitely a unique perspective. Mercury, he has Mercury in his chart highlighted on multiple different points of being actually aspected and things of that nature. And Mercury is a boyish, childlike, impish type energy. And what happens with little precarious boys who are running around? You never know what they're going to do. You never know what they're going to get into. They have a lot of energy, a lot of movement. His 10th house was Saturn in Scorpio, right? And this means he has some enemies. issues regarding sex and power, deep sadness. He is a very disciplined or was a very disciplined person, and excuse me, this energy brings about difficulty with his family in his career, and he had to learn the lesson of letting go of people, letting go of companies he worked with. That was huge in his 10th house because that Saturn was in Scorpio. Okay, so overall, how did he make his money? One, traveling a lot, international focus, this kind of Prince energy, this high vibe energy, high verbal, mental ability, definitely very influenced by his father and his siblings. Um, Again, his communication, his skills of writing, singing, dancing, that was extremely important. It was able to bring him fame. His ability to magnetize people, even when he was a kid, when he was the prince of the family, he was the fifth one of the Jackson Five. When he was that point, people were drawn to him. He was like a magnet for them. That energy is there. And of course, he also had some real estate success because that was in the chart there with the Jupiter and the Mercury and the Gemini and the Sagittarius. Here's the thing, the double Jupiter energy, you see the Jupiter in his second house, Jupiter in his 11th house, and then Jupiter is aspecting other parts of his chart, meaning that he was the recipient of a lot of pomp and circumstance where he went. People really were into him. They probably studied him. He was in a lot of assemblies. He was a lot of chair, traveling and doing things and going in high places. And then he had a lot of energy. This is how he made his money. The movement was there, the creativity with the writing and the singing, that is all where money came from. Again, I want to highlight that Pisces energy for his intuition because that is where he got his ideas from. And he was able to actually bring those ideas to life and spread them all over the world. Not everyone is able to bring the ideas to life, and he was able to do that. How did he die? What was that energy? So the energy was Pisces. Of course, he died in his sleep. He died in a place of confinement because he was officially pronounced dead at the hospital, but he went into the coma at his home. A key thing to note is that with his seventh house, the Sun and Mercury in Leo indicates death at the hands of a male. And in this case, his death was at the hands of a doctor under circumstances, unethical events. And most people who know there was a whole court case around it, and that's exactly what happened. Mercury is also associated with surgery and medical procedures, and throughout his life, he had different surgeries and medical procedures and different things that caused him to get into this whole pain situation and needing the drugs, of course, leading to his death. Leo is associated with coronary thrombosis, heart attacks, belly circulation, and that was what his final cause of death was, heart attack, of course, after going into the coma, which is really not a shocker, right? He died during his Mercury Dasha. And for those of you who are studying with me, that's very important because he died in his Mercury Dasha when his Sun and Mercury were in Leo in the seventh house, which is one indicator of death. Now, I want to say for those of you who are studying with me, we also need to look at the influence of these circumstances here being related to a father figure. So the death, whereas it's ruled accidental, probably not necessarily being as accidental um, as one would think. Okay, so I want to show this for those of you who are studying with me so that you can understand that on the day of his death, and this is actually the time of his death, look at the activity in his sixth house, which is a house of death, which in his eighth house, which is a house of death. Look at where his Pisces is, which is a house of death, and look in his actual 12th house energy, which is a house of death. Okay, and that's really key. And also, let's even look at his third house, which is a house of death, and it has Scorpio in it, which is from the eighth house. So, on the day of his death, he literally had all of the markers of death. Okay, all right, that's it. If you guys like this video, give me a follow. Leave me your thoughts in the comments.